Alright, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kurt, and welcome back to some more Draft League hot takes. So you guys really killed the like goal in the last one. I said goal 17 likes. We killed it with 25, and we absolutely killed with the support. 130 views, 25 likes. We hit over 100 views in the first 24 hours of it being uploaded, and then another 30 in the last couple days. So I really appreciate all support. So you guys stuck up to your end of the deal, so I'll stick up to mine. Part 2 is right now. Also, we hit 200 subscribers after uploading that video, which was a huge milestone for me. So thank you guys all so much for the support. I really do appreciate it. From the bottom of my heart, it makes me feel good that all you guys are coming out for all the Draft League content. But obviously, you're not here to hear me ramble. You guys are here for some hot takes. You're here to hear me discuss things, and you're here to make me make fun of people. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna hop right into these right about now. So normally for these videos, I'm going to be taking them off of the Twitter thread I tweeted weeks ago, but I'm actually going to be taking the first one off of the YouTube comments of the last one. And if you guys want to leave some more but don't have a Twitter, feel free to hit me up on Discord or in the YouTube comment section of this or the last video, just so I see them. And I will definitely pull from them if you guys have some good takes. So this one I actually saw a couple times in the comment section, and I felt like it was worth talking about, and it is from Mr. Marshadow. He says, laddering is better than Draft League. Now this one was interesting for me because I don't entirely disagree, but I obviously don't agree. So obviously, Draft League player, I play a lot more draft than I do singles or just standard singles or anything like that. And they both have their merits. They both have their pros and cons. Like the pros to laddering, being able to just jump on and get a game and practice and get good. Really, it has its benefits of being able to kind of just practice and get good quicker and get gooder. Gooder's a word now. But Draft League, I feel like, involves a little bit more knowledge of the game as a whole instead of knowledge of a meta. And that's where I think the difference is a lot. You see this a lot. A lot of Smogon players jump into draft expecting to kill it, and they do mediocre. There are some that have translated really well. I know a lot of Little Cup players do really well, but because Little Cup is such a small tier, it's a lot easier to know as a whole rather than just meta. But a lot of players will jump into Draft League and just get squished. They'll get washed over real quick because it's an entirely different way of thinking. You're used to going into a game expecting, okay, my opponent, like I'm building a team expecting Toxapex and Landorus and Skarmory, and I don't know what's meta anymore. I don't play OU very often. As you can see from the lack of Wi-Fi battles on this channel, I don't play OU a whole lot anymore. And when I do, I pull up with Dragozolt. So like you know what you're going in expecting things. Draft League, you obviously know what you're expecting in the sense that you know what your opponent has, but your opponent has so many options. Okay, so let me give you an example here. You look at your opponent's team in Smogon and you see a Latios. So the obvious expectances of Latios are it's probably Life Orb or Choice Scarf, and it's probably got something like Draco Meteor, Psychic or Psyshock, and then like maybe Mystical Fire, Aura Sphere, and then like Roost or Recover or Defog or something like that nature. Draft League, you gotta think of everything. What coverage moves does mine get? What would it have versus me? Does this set make sense? What sets make sense versus me? What is this Latios trying to do to me? It's a lot of similar thinking, but in a different style. It's a lot of kind of trying to prepare yourself for catching your opponent off guard and trying to prepare a game plan instead of a style. You can't build a Draft League team around one specific style. Or I guess you can. But like you can't week to week. You can build a draft around a certain style, but it's very difficult to build drafts that 1 week you can run hyper offense, the next week you can run balance, the next week you can run stall, then you can go back to hyper offense, and then you can run this. But in Smogon you can do that. Obviously you can build a rain team, you can build a stall team, you can build balance, hyper offense, you can build whatever you want around any Pokemon. In draft you get 11 Pokemon. That's what you got to work with. It's very hard to build different formats, and if you do try to build, I'm gonna draft Scar and Bliss, and then I'm gonna draft these super fast breakers, and I'm gonna have hyper offense and stall and this and that, 9 times out of 10 your team's dog shit and it's gonna fall apart by week 3. So Draft League is a lot more about drafting your synergy and drafting well. So I think the differences between laddering and draft are that you can draft and you can jump on Showdown and get better a lot quicker. Yes, that's different for laddering. Draft League, you don't have that option, but Draft League involves a different type of thinking for a meta as a whole. All right, so we're back on the Twitterverse. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, JustKurt17, always linked in my videos. But we are taking our first one from Sturcules Plays. Sturcules. I'm gonna go Sturcules because I think it sounds cooler, but it could be Sturcules. My apologies. And the one we're taking out of this is Z moves were really fun in draft as long as you had Z captains or had to draft a Z crystal. we're going to pretend that drafting Z crystals never happened. We're just going to sweep that under the rug. That was an L that the Mons community took, that the draft community took. We're just going to sweep that one under the rug. That was probably the worst decision as a community we've ever made, was that drafting Z crystals was a good idea. That was terrible. I hated that. I did one Z crystal draft. I ended up with Normalium Z when my normal type was like fucking Miltank. It sucked. I hated it. Just sweep it under the rug. Go away. Z moves as a whole. So if you know me, you know my opinion on Z moves. I personally hate Z moves. I think they suck. I think they're garbage, and I think they're stupid. But a lot of people enjoy Z, and a lot of people have different opinions on Z. It's probably one of the more controversial things in draft in Gen 7 was like how Z should be done. And like near the end, everyone kind of got a hang of like what was good and what worked. There were a lot of different formats to Z. Stuff like free was terrible. I refuse to agree with anybody that says Z was a good idea. Free Z. I think that was terrible. I think it was just a little too much in prep and a little too overwhelming. But I enjoyed captains. I think if you either dedicate, like you get 2 Z captains, or you get, if you're in a points draft, you get X amount of points for Z captains. I think that worked too. I think I agree with the point, like if you dedicate certain Z mons, then it was doable. But I still hated Z moves nonetheless. But I think if you dedicated certain mons to it, then it worked. All right, so next one we're going to take from Sturkules Place is heavy duty boots, HBDs, should be worn down throughout the battle, kind of like sub. And then he follows up with, I guess a better way to say it is that would be heavy duty boots are too good and need to be nerfed somehow, since hazard removal seems to be has become less important. I actually really agree with this, and this is probably my favorite way of nerfing heavy duty boots. This is something I didn't really think about. I actually really like this idea. Something like, okay, you have heavy duty boots, and every time you come in, it takes the damage for you, like a substitute. So you come in on stealth rocks, it takes the 12% on stealth rocks for you. If your opponent has a spike up, it takes that 6 or 8% or whatever it is on spikes, guaranteed for you. And then like it prevents heavy duty boots from being such a spammable item, and it really makes you think about your switches. Now, I think that might actually kill the item in the sense that it might not be the best item, especially on a Pokemon like Moltres, who would come in once with heavy duty boots and that shit would just be gone. But I like it, unless it had its own little health bar. I guess that would be a thing. Like it would have its own little health dedication instead of like how a substitute does. I think it's a really cool idea. I think that'd be the best way to nerf heavy duty boots. I think heavy duty boots are way too spammable. I think they're probably the best item in draft right now. Like it's up there with like leftovers. And honestly, I think those two are like by far the best items in draft. I think like Scarf and Band and Life Orb and shit, all of that are kind of like up there in like an A tier, A minus tier. I think S tier is leftovers and heavy duty boots. If you guys have watched some of my games, I pull up with 5 leftovers on a team purely because I either don't need them or leftovers changes roles or what have you. So I think leftovers and heavy duty boots are just way too spammable. I think leftovers are fine though because it doesn't give you a whole lot, and if you get poisoned or burned, it just negates it anyways. So I think that's where leftovers is in terms of like not being broken, but heavy duty boots are way too spammable. You see shit all the time. Like Vepsis last season spammed heavy duty boots in NCP and BBR, and it fucking worked for him. Like he just never had to take hazards on his walls, which are a huge way of breaking down his walls. And you can give the argument like, well, he's not holding leftovers, Rocky. I'm like, yeah, but like he doesn't take damage and then you hit them with your move. So I feel like they do need to be nerfed in some way. All right, so our next comes from Bronze Portland Poliwag. The one we're taking out of this one is tiers are unviable, greater than or points are better. First off, your spelling's unviable, so there's that. But I agree. I think points are the better format. I used to disagree back when I was a trash can of a player. Now I'm like a recycling bit of a player. I'm not good, but like, you know, I'm not terrible. I'm not the worst. You can kind of deal with me, I guess. I'm not a total trash can, but I'm better than I used to be. And I used to think that tiers were just superior. I think points allowed way too much. They were like, there was too many options and it was a lot harder of a format. Now I think points allow for, I'm at the point where I actually prefer that diversity. Tiers are very hard to work around, and restricting you in certain formats. And I guess it's like, you could be more creative in terms of having to like go in with weaknesses or use random ass Pokemon to fill those weaknesses, but like it really is a lot harder to do. Whereas points, with points you have a lot more creative freedom, you have a lot more ways to build, you have a lot more options, you have a lot more backups and game plans. It's a lot easier to draft with points than people think it is. If you just know what you're doing, if you actually think about what you're drafting, it's a lot easier to draft with points as you have more options, you have more variety. Following that, I think if you lock teams into a certain amount of mons with points, that's a throw. I think if you're doing a points draft, you need to give a range. You can draft 9 to 12 mons. Anywhere in between, as long as you fill the minimum 9, you can go beyond, or you can stay at 9, whatever have you. I think forcing a team into 10 or 11 Pokemon is an absolute throw. I think it kind of just negates the whole point of doing points then. Why am I forced to take a 2-point shitter fucking Hoppip if we're doing points, and the whole point of the points was to be more creative? At that point, you may as well just do tiers if you're locked into a certain amount of Pokemon. You're better off just tiering everything into A, B, C, D and going with that. But yeah, points are better than tiers, 100%. All right, so our next hot take comes from JRicky8, and they say, if you aren't, oh my God, I can't read. 3, 2, 1. All right, so our next hot take comes from JRicky8, and JRicky says, if you aren't picking a high-tier electric type like Thundurus or Raikou, then don't bother picking one at all. Fast electric types are so unnecessary and overhyped in draft leagues. Say it louder for the people in the back! Dude, the amount of garbage electric types that are out there, especially with hidden power getting removed, the amount of garbage electric types that people draft just because they want an electric type is so sad. I'm sorry, but Jolteon, Manectric, fucking Evire's not bad, but it's not very good. Electabuzz falls under that category. I think there are a lot of electric types that are completely unviable in draft. And there's a high tier one. It's very controversial. I'm gonna say it. Regieleki, kind of ass. The mon sucks. Don't bother with it. I agree with this to an extent. Not to an extent. I agree with this pretty much 100%. Thundurus, both Thundurus forms, Raikou, Tapu Koko, and then like for low tier electrics, mid tier electrics, I think Xurkitree is worth it. I think if your electric type can naturally hit grounds, it's not completely unviable. I think Xurkitree is worth it, but it's not that fast. The Raichus are not very strong, but they do get coverage to hit ground, so they're not completely useless and null and void, and their speed tier is value. And other than that, there's not a whole lot of electrics that are completely worth, unless I'm forgetting another one. And if there is, I'll throw it on the screen. But I'm pretty sure it's very few and far between that actual electric types carry any value. A lot of the low tier shitters just aren't worth it. The whole idea of like you need to have super fast electric type for super fast Volt Switch and Thunderbolt and clean up, it's very overrated. And I think in Gen 7 and Gen 6 it held a little more merit when like Jolteon and Manectric and Mega Manectric actually had hidden power and were completely like fucking dog shit useless. But especially now in Gen 8, I think a lot of electric types have just gotten nerfed to the ground and are kind of dog shit useless. All right, so our next one comes from Erasmus Ethan. I butchered your name and I apologize. Also, this is my second attempt recording this one, and I butchered it the first time, so I apologize, Ethan. We're gonna call you Ethan. And they say that drafts have become increasingly, I'm not even gonna try saying that word again. I know what the word is. I cannot say it. I don't know why. It's formula-matic, but I can't fuse them together. I don't know why. I'm stupid. Leave me alone. And as such, the golden age of heat sets have long passed. I really like this one. Because I agree. I think a lot of things have become very standard, and heat and stupid get fused together a lot, and it's very frustrating now when somebody brings something that's actually really fire and people call it stupid, or somebody brings something completely stupid and people call it heat. I think there's a huge difference between the two, and I think it's something that the community needs to learn, especially in the Wi-Fi scene. I think Showdown scene, you know, they're better about it. We talked about it last time. I think Showdown has a lot more quality and a little bit more intellectual players. The Wi-Fi scene, though, really got to learn the difference between heat and stupid. There's a lot of stupid shit that happens on Wi-Fi that shouldn't be happening, but there's also like a lot of heat things that people kind of miss out on. I think I'm gonna follow up with Juiced here, who says, I remember the time when any of the resist berries, even Colbur, were considered incredible heat. That's true. I was around in that era when people would bring like Colbur berry or like Pasho berry or Aka berry, something like that, and completely catch Pokemon off guard and be like, whoa, that was a really cool set, man. I really like that. I didn't expect that. That was really cool. That's back when draft was still like in its baby stages and like a lot of people were really bad. So everyone just expected the Smogon sets from each other. So when you actually went out of your way and like actually thought about what you were doing and built an awesome team, shit became a lot cooler. And I think there's a lot of items, more in particular than moves, that really get underutilized in draft. I think stuff like Red Card, Eject Pack, I used to spam Adrenaline Orb. I think Adrenaline Orb is a fire item in some matchups. If they have a really good Intimidator and you can bring Adrenaline Orb, that is a fire set. I think there are a lot of really cool items that people kind of sleep on because, you know, they're afraid to take risks in building and they're afraid to try things. And I think that's the main reason the heat has died. The heat has burned out, if you will. I said burned out. I should have said put out. Damn it. I think it's fizzled out because people are more afraid to get beat up. People are afraid of trying things. People are afraid of losing. Whereas back in when draft first started, people were, you know, it was more chill, it was more casual, it was a lot more of a fun game. Now people sweat and scream and try hard over shit. I think the days of heat have kind of passed on just because people are afraid. So I think the people who aren't afraid to do crazy shit and bring some unconventional shit actually do really well if they know what they're doing. That being said, if you're throwing Choice Band on a Jolteon or bringing Curse Sylveon against a Celesteela, Owen, I think you're crazy. So our next one comes from my boy Amo Little Cup Goat, and he says, since a lot of people have opinions on Standard, I want to do some for Little Cup leagues, which is totally fair. I actually like this. He says Little Cup is the tier where it's most easy to make mons viable, even budget mons like P-Dove. That's true. I really like Little Cup because I talked about it a little bit earlier. Little Cup is a lot smaller of a format because there's only so many baby Pokemon, and then there's the ones that are banned like Tangela and Murkrow and Scyther. So like there are very few first stage Pokemon. So I think total it's only like 200 Pokemon in Galar decks total. I think it's like what, 400 or 500 baby Pokemon, something like that. I don't remember exactly. That are allowable. So like Little Cup actually is a lot more condensed of a tier, and it makes lower tier shit shine. I spam Pichu in Little Cup drafts. Pichu is not very good as a whole, but it's probably the best tier 4 bottom tier pick you can get. The Nidorans on paper look like dog, but are actually not bad when you look into them. They get T-Spikes, they can run the Hustle set. A lot of shit is actually a lot more viable in low tiers in Little Cup than it is to kind of force low tiers in actual standard leagues. A lot of the times, look at my NCP Season 4 run. I brought Double to 1 game, and I brought Regice to like 4. Purely because I was trying to get Regice kills. If, you know, I brought Regice because it was Regice, which Regice is very powerful. But I brought Double to 1 game. A lot of people didn't even bring their tier 4s. Mid brought, well, I guess Rabombi's not a low tier. Mid didn't bring Rabombi all season. He didn't bring Shinam either. So, you know. But I think Little Cup is a lot easier to make your tier 4s and your tier 3s, your bottom tiers work. Unless you're drafting some shit like Metapod, in which case, don't waste your time. Alright, so our next take comes from Hey It's Orange, or Pokemon Trainer Orange, and they say, VGC draft leagues are a passing fad, and once WBE gets done with them, they will go extinct. This is a tweet I saw, and at first I disagreed, and then I thought about it some more. And it's a very interesting thing. I think VGC has become this off-meta thing where it's not going to be a common trend. VGC, if it was going to be a common trend for draft leagues, it would have blown up a lot more already. You see standard singles is the way of draft league. It's just how it is. There are a lot of off-season or like off type of leagues. You got low tier, Little Cup. VGC joins that category. Or like 8-mon tournament, I guess, falls in that category as well, like off standard. I think VGC is forever going to fall in that off category alongside Little Cup and low tier and shit like that, or Uber's another good one to throw in there as well. It's going to fall under that category, and I think it's here to stay in that category. VGC will never become a staple of Draft League. VGC is its own competition. It's hosted by Pokemon. That's got its own shit going on. So it doesn't need a Draft League boost. I think it's not going to be a staple of Draft League, but you see a lot more team tournaments. I'm not a huge team tournament guy, but I know a lot of people who are, hang out with them a lot. VGC is becoming more and more of a Draft League tournament, or like a team tour category, because a lot of people don't know it, and it actually allows a lot more doubles players to kind of integrate themselves into singles if they get into that route, because they can kind of do a team tour in their comfort zone, but also play singles at the same time, instead of just, here's singles, and you get pushed on in. Or the other hand, look at me. I'm playing DDL, and I'm getting my ass handed to me, bro. I got pushed into doubles, and I'm getting my ass mollywopped, and I thought I knew stuff about VGC. So I think it's very difficult to pass the two. So I don't think VGC Draft League is ever going to die. I don't think it's ever going to be like, I remember that time that VGC Draft League was a thing. I think it's never going to die. I think it's just one of those side fads with Little Cup and Ubers that is just going to be done as like off-season stuff, or like one-off leagues like BBL and what have you. All right, so here we are with our next tweet from Ace of Base 99. I didn't know you were still in the format. I guess I'm that disconnected with Showdown. I didn't know Ace was still around. So shouts to Ace. I remember you from way back when. I think we played a couple times. The one I'm stealing off of their tweet here is Gen 6 was both the most fun and most competitively balanced gen for Draft League. Say it louder for the people in the back. Please say it louder for the people in the back. This is by far the best take in this whole thread. This is the best take because I wholeheartedly 100% agree. Gen 6 was genuinely the most fun. If I could only play in OVERRATED leagues for the rest of my career, which I've debated doing, by the way, if I could only play Gen 6 for the rest of my life, I totally would. And probably at some point, I will. I know Gen 6 is a very, very off-brand league at this point because people just don't like going back in time. PMU will forever stay Gen 6 and 7. Saying that out there for any coaches or any potential coaches that are interested in PMU. Forever Gen 6 and 7 Wi-Fi. Never changing that. And then I've seen tournaments or like team tours with OVERRATED slots, and I totally debated signing up for those. We played a couple months ago, last summer, I believe. It was APA Legacy, I believe. Which was like every APA coach or everyone who's been every APA coach could sign up and play OVERRATED with one of their slots, and that's the slot I played the most in. I love OVERRATED. It's my home zone. I love OVERRATED. I don't think there's any major stupid mechanic like Dynamax or Megas or Urshifu. I think there's no stupid mechanic. I think Megas are perfectly balanced mechanic. Obviously some like Lucario and Gengar and shit like that are too good and need to go away. But for the most part, a lot of Megas are very well balanced. They're Pokemon that everything has checks and counters, or there's ways of beating everything. There's nothing too overpowered. The only thing that people argue about with OVERRATED is Hidden Power. I personally am a stan of Hidden Power. I love the move, and I think it adds a little bit more creativity and forces a little more thinking and building and playing. But I know a lot of people hate it because bird breaking checks go burr, but also like you guys like Z moves, so fuck you guys, does the same thing. That might be the hot take. That's my hot take for you guys, is I think Z moves, if you think Hidden Power is bannable, then so are Z moves. That's my hot take, because people give the argument that like Z moves are not fair because it breaks through checks, yada yada yada. Well, so does Hidden Power. So why is one allowable, one's not? So that's my thing. That's my thing for you guys. Please don't hurt me too bad in the comment section. But yeah, I 100% agree. I think OVERRATED days and even X and Y days, if you were around for them, was the most fun for honestly just Wi-Fi and playing Pokemon as a whole. I think it was the most competitive. It allowed a lot more fun. And it might also just because that's when draft was like still kind of in its baby form, so everything was a lot more fun to do things. But I still enjoy going back in time and playing OVERRATED games every here and now again. All right, so our final one is actually going to be from Aki's thread about a similar thing that we did about over 2 years ago. He did this in 2019. You guys can see, where's my mouse? Right here, February 26, 2019. So actually, the day I'm recording this is the 2-year birthday of this thread. So happy birthday, Aki's thread. Yeah, so I believe it was Blue who linked this tweet and said Aki's a phenomenal player and had a lot of good hot takes, which obviously I know Aki's part of that Mount Mushmore. I've known Aki. I've got my ass handed to me by Aki. Haunting flashbacks of PMC days. Aki's a phenomenal player, and he definitely knows what he's talking about. And Aki's a very funny dude if he's not the one roasting you. So, but we're gonna take this one off of his thread because I found this one and I feel like it's a nice one to kind of end on and end some discussion on. He says 95% of players have no idea how to speed creep and are terrible at it. There's almost never a reason to run max speed and never on a speed boosting sweeper. Facts. I think speed creeping takes you from a mediocre player to a decent player. If you understand how to EV your mons properly and make your EVs as a whole do something, instead of just, well, it has max attack because attack go burr, or it has max speed because I go very fast. No, if you actually optimize your sets and give your Pokemon value in the game, it makes it not just like some Smogon basic bitch. Speed creeping it's very debated on whether it's actually needed. There's a lot of times where you don't actually need to speed creep. Like if you're base 108, or like if you're a Gengar outspeeding a Terrakion, do you really need that extra bulk? Do you really need it? And I think there's a lot. It depends on matchups. I personally would just go max speed against a 108 versus a 110. But if there's base 100 versus a 110, take that extra bulk because that's an extra, I think it's like at level 50, 76 or 80 EV, something like that, that are just free. And you don't need to run max attack or max special attack on something like a setup sweeper. I think if you're running a breaker, trying to get the most special attack, if not max or attack out of your breakers is a must, because like obviously they're trying to break shit. Why would you make them weaker? But if you're running some sort of setup sweeper, some sort of boosting item sweeper like bulk up or dragon dance or what have you, you can go more into that bulk to help you set up, because at the end of the day, setting up will multiply your attack instead of just your base raw number. So you'll end up with a higher number if you can take the hits better and get the setup off. So I agree. Also, if you're running speed boosting, like I think there's rarely ever a reason to run Jolly on Scolipede unless you're trying to hit something before you get the speed boost. There's rarely ever a reason to get the speed boost on Scolipede. And even if you are running out something and you can't just put protect on it, then fine. But other than that, you can probably just run protect and get speed boost and be adamant. So I agree with this wholeheartedly. Also like Dragon Dance and shit. Agree with this pretty much for the most part. There are some instances where like 252 is fine, but I think a lot of the time, if you can optimize your spread, you have no reason not to. All right, so that was our last take for this video. If you guys enjoyed my hot takes part 2 video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe button. We got a lot of support on the last one, and I would love even more support on this one to keep them coming. We're gonna set another like goal since you guys have been crushing the support on this and people have been wanting them. If you guys want a part 3, this will be going up on Friday. So if you guys want a part 3 on, I think I have an upload on Tuesday already, so we're gonna say next Friday. I'll make it easier for you guys. If you guys hit 15, no, we'll hit 17 again. If you guys can hit 17 again, we'll have one for next Friday. If I don't have an upload for Tuesday, we'll do it for Tuesday. If not, it'll be for next Friday. So those are my off days right now. I got other shit going on right now. But if you guys, yeah. So if we can hit 17 likes, we'll go for next Friday. Unless I don't have anything on Tuesday and I'm just mixing up my days, then we'll go for Tuesday. So yeah, and if not, we'll do it whenever. We'll probably end up doing it next Friday anyways. But that's gonna be it. Also, go follow me on Twitter. You guys can see right there. I tweet stuff. I talk about stuff. I don't actually use Twitter very often, to be honest. And if I do, it's probably plugging my own videos. So, but I do some cool stuff on Twitter and talk to people sometimes. Also, future video ideas like the Draft League thread, which will also be linked down below if you want to send more Draft League hot takes and have Twitter. If you don't, send me a DM on Discord or type in the comments below your hot take, and we will go through them for the next video. So, with that, I'm gonna hop out of here. Thank you guys for watching. My name is JustKurt, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. I'm out.